Good evening and welcome to Union Organized and Resilient, established in 2020, a Tate session. I am Anna Berry, your moderator, affiliated with DC 37, retiree, and a Bronx resident. We are a sisterhood of active and retiree leaders and mentors that can be found in positions of our home, union, and community organizations. I would like to give special shout outs to our guests who came out tonight. We thank you, Gloria Page, Bobby Hood Sr., Katie Robbins, Etta White of Old Fields Planter Incorporated, and Missionaries Lady Guild of New York. They are nonprofit Bronx-based organizations. I'd like to also give a shout out to Liz, who's in the chat room. Liz, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, Assemblywoman Fernandez. How nice to meet you. My name is Liz Eastman.
Nice to meet you, Liz.
And your affiliation?
I'm so sorry. District Council 37, Local 375. I'm a rank and file member and a member of HP. I work for HPD, Department of Housing and Preservation and Development.
Thank you, Liz. We thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on tonight to our special guests. Tonight, we have the pleasure of having Assemblywoman Nathalia Fernandez, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting at a Martin Luther King Jr. candlelight vigil in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. She is running for the office of Bronx Borough President in the hopes of becoming the first Latina Bronx Borough President. Yes.
Hey.
Please, let's welcome Assemblywoman Nathalia Fernandez of the 80th District and the Bronx.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. We just want to know, can you give us a little background about yourself? Who is Nathalia Fernandez?
Who am I? I am a loving woman.
Besides every woman, please.
Well, yes, hi. I'm Nathalia Fernandez, representing the 80th, currently the neighborhoods of Morris Park, Pelham Parkway, Allerton, Pelham Gardens, Mosholu, and Norwood. I've been an assembly member since 2018, and I tell my story backwards. I'm here now. I came into 2018. Year before that, I was Bronx representative for Governor Cuomo, serving the entire borough on my own, making sure that every need, every hurt, every issue was heard at the governor's office. In that role, I was responsible for helping to decipher $10 million in the Bronx Civic Center to make sure that we stretched every dollar and utilized to upgrade the community there. They brought free Wi-Fi to the hub. We redid the Bronx Walk of Fame, park renovations, I think there's Railroad Park there, and upgraded some schools and even to host us a little bit. So I have a good understanding of how city, state, and the executive can work together and how collaborations, partnerships, communication is absolutely key to getting things done and seeing real solutions and results in the borough. Before that, I was chief of staff to the assembly district that I hold now. And I've been working in that office since 2013 when the member that won had started. Volunteered for him, and in that role, I just did everything under the sun to make sure that the mission was done, the mission was made, and that we won, and we can work for the community. But in the assembly, I'm very proud of the work that I've done there. Immediately entering, they tell you what's your niche, what are you going to work towards, and members that came from being a lawyer, they wanted to be sure that they were utilizing their skills there. Members that came from the healthcare community, focusing on healthcare in the state. I started in government right after college, so I don't have any other career, but mental health and criminal justice were the two things in my life that have just come up often and affected my family. Before I did volunteer and get involved in politics, I was a counselor at Life is Precious, which is a program of Communal Life, Inc., and it's specifically to help mentor, be an outlet for young adolescent Latinas that were at risk, suicidal, self-harming. And that program was started because at a young age, especially in the city, it's tough for a young lady to grow up, especially when you come from a family that your parents immigrated here. How many times do we hear that students at a young age are translating documents, are responsible for the household, are responsible for their siblings? That can do a lot to a student, to a young lady. And then with the challenges in the outside world, predators, young women, Latinas are over-sexualized too much. And it's it's honestly a crisis. The fact that Latinas are the highest have the highest rate of suicide in New York State. So immediately entering, I put in a bill that got passed, and it became law to do extra reporting on not only suicide, on not only Latinas, but breaking it down to give real results and study the demographics as to why we, people choose suicide. So the bill broke it down from Latinas to male Black youth, LGBTQ community, veterans, and rural New Yorkers upstate. In addition to that, criminal justice has been something I've taken a focus on because my family's been affected by it. My older brother, he's on the darker side, and he has been profiled, harassed multiple times in his life. And we see the difference that it's been for him compared to my other brothers. So I've taken that step to really get into that area and speak for those that have felt the injustices, those that are suffering right now, and to really push for change. In my 2 years, I've been helpful in getting 50A passed, to having the right to record police. These are modern, I think, changes that we've been able to push because as technology grows, we got to decipher where our freedoms lie there. And my personal bill, which was one that I introduced after meeting Angie Kears. She is the wife of Andrew Kears, who is a Bronx resident. And he was arrested and held in the backseat of a squad car, having a heart attack, begging for help, begging for life. His last words were, "I can't breathe." And the officers laughed and brushed him off. And as a result of that, he died. So my bill would put the officer civilly liable if a person in your custody is showing extreme distress, asking for help, asking for medical attention, and you do nothing, you're held responsible. So my intention with that is we need to change how the police respond to us. So in my current role now, and hopefully as borough president, and even after, we need to continue to advocate how police treat our communities. And it's a tight time right now. It's sad to see how crime has increased in our communities. And I think it's a whole twofold with everything. I really think COVID has exasperated a lot of people and the needs that have been. We know that crime stems from poverty, and here we are with no food, no money, struggling every day. But in this role as borough president, I've decided to run because I see that role can give immediate changes right now. It is a role that has influence, that has power, building relationships with organizations, private corporations, everyone. But we need to deliver for the Bronx right now. And seeing how COVID has shown of so many different needs, like Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a necessity. It's no longer a luxury. So my plan, we're using the appointments that, the borough president has power of, to have somebody that can really negotiate with our cable and broadband providers to expand it. Our public buildings, our state city buildings, Wi-Fi should be stretched out blocks, not just in that building. We can have partners in our communities. Right now in Allerton, a resident purchased a node, a satellite. So I'm trying to work with neighboring buildings to see if we can get a modem on that would extend now the satellite, the Wi-Fi service. So communities can have free Wi-Fi. With criminal justice and in public safety, I think we really need to work towards connecting our community more with the police. And I intend to have town halls in each precinct, if not monthly, bi-monthly, because communication, as we said, is key. And they need to hear what we feel, and we need to know what they feel. Because I know that there's disparities and disagreements, but it's happened too often that there's just hate between each other. And we all want safety, we all want peace. We need to have these clear lines of communications. When it comes to housing, I'm proud of my fight in Albany, passing the housing justice package last 2019, which was a long, hard fought battle for years. And finally that year, we were able to get 9 bills passed. 8 out of 9. We're gonna get the 9th one this year. But 8 out of 9 that gave tenants real power against those greedy landlords that have allowed buildings to crumble, that have allowed tenants to suffer, that have pushed to evict tenants. It's finally something that I'm proud to say we're seeing less of, but again, COVID exasperating everything. Families are still at risk of eviction because of the fact that rent cannot be paid. We fought in the assembly for an eviction moratorium, and we're still pushing to have that moratorium extend a year after the pandemic. because, okay, pandemic's over, we declare state of emergency, and now the court's going to open up, and all the rent that you owed, we need it right now. That's impossible. People don't have the money. How are we going to keep asking for that money?
Absolutely,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll like to move on with our questions.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just rambling on my notes.
No. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
You flashed through half of the questions, really.
Yeah, you answered a lot of the questions that we had for you.
I want to ask that because
Exactly. So, the sisters and myself, we will be asking questions that were previously sent to us. You have about 3 minutes to answer each question. I will start off the first, which you pretty much answered. I said, why are you making the run for this office? And you did say that. So tell me, other than what you already gave us, why should I encourage others in my union and community to support you?
Well, I do have a union roots in my family, so I understand the benefits and the blessing that it can be to many families. It is a blessing to many families. My grandfather was a 32 BJ member at Fordham University as an elevator operator when they were still, those elevators. My uncle was a carpenter of the New York City Carpenters, and it's helped him start his own business and provide for his family and dozens other. And I really believe in the opportunity that unions provide to so many to have sustainable, thriving careers, protected by benefits that everybody deserves. And I believe that I am the candidate because I have, I guess, pride myself, and really it's the only way that I believe to work, in really listening to my community, reaching out when I want to know something, opening the door when they're knocking on it, and relating your experiences to the real solutions. Every time that I've had to go to negotiate a bill, I make sure that I speak out to my advocates. I make sure that I reach out to the unions because I need to know how it's really going to affect you and not just what's being presented here. So when I go and have my seat at the table, I intend to bring you to the table. So for land use issues that might affect our community, rezoning, we're going to have town halls in every neighborhood because I don't want to ever hear that the community wasn't involved, that we didn't give enough time to really understand the concerns. And I want to be sure that this is a borough that is working all of us by all of us, as it is in the assembly, as it is in everywhere. You can't do anything alone. But I really believe in my experience, again, working in the state on the executive level with city, my integrity. I've done nothing that I have to apologize for. I'm very proud of my voting record and everything that I fought, even when outside forces were pressuring that it wasn't right. And I relate this to the criminal justice reform because members of my community didn't want to pass cash bail. But my constituent, Akeem Browder, who is a big supporter of mine in this race, we worked closely together so we can educate the rest of our own district as to why this is something needed and why it's hurting so many community members. I believe I have the energy. I am, one of the younger members in the assembly. I go everywhere. I attend as much as I can because I enjoy it. I really do enjoy celebrating with my community, with neighborhood block associations, and just enjoying the Bronx for what it is. And it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I see you out there. Definitely.
Because I like it. It's fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, for some people who just came on, if you have a question, please put it in the chat and Liz will let us know who has a question. I would like to have Deborah, other sister.
Good evening,
Deborah,
everyone.
please introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Pisacco. I am a uprising union activist. I am from Brooklyn, currently living in El Barrio. And I'm just so excited to be here today and to have our special guests, Assemblywoman Fernandez. So awesome to see you tonight, to take this time out to be with us. So this is awesome. The question I have for you is regarding homelessness. And there are countless people on our streets due to mental illness, trauma, and unemployment. What is your plan for addressing these issues, finding reliable shelter and support? The number of households in the borough who are rent burden, spending more than 35% of their income in rent, stands at 51%. the overall number in New York City rests at 45%. As a borough president, what is your availability, your ability to influence how land is used in your borough? How would you use your office to bring about more workforce housing and affordable housing for low-income families and seniors in your borough?
Well, I believe to tackle homelessness and preventing homelessness comes in many different ways. I mentioned my housing support for the package there, intended to keep families in their homes, not being evicted. I think when it comes to affordability, we need to tackle it in two different ways. One, the AMI. We know that the AMI is not what is relevant, is not reflective of the Bronx's real AMI. So for any affordable housing projects that are proposed here, I'm going to make it firm. I want my Bronx people to be able to afford this. It can't be the high market rate that's tied into the average that, you know, Westchester and Rockland have there. So for any project negotiations, I want to make sure that, again, it's below market rate because that is affordable to us. For those that are suffering through homelessness, you know, we are building shelters, but the Bronx needs to have its fair share. I do believe that we've been kind of dumped on with a lot of the shelters, and a lot of them are in the South Bronx. Yes. But understanding the numbers too for areas of need, my area right here, we don't have any shelters. And for the first time, they're proposing one. I have a concern with the location because it is the men's shelter right across the street from the school, but it's not something I'm fighting because my constituents within CB11 need it. So I believe that we can fairly find locations for shelters and have programs within them to help people get back into working, job training, guidance, resume building. Also with voucher systems, not only just building a shelter, but we know there's available apartments in this city. So we need to be able to work with landlords and HPD to locate them and place families in regular apartments that eventually might be permanent. And we need to create that pathway to permanency. For the mentally ill homeless population, DHS, I think, needs more funding to help address the mental health population there. And we need to have housing available to them. Like yes. We just need to have the housing there because what was it, 2018, summer 2018, Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road, there was just an influx, an abundance of homeless, you know, men and women and everybody hanging around the subway station, camping out in Pelham Parkway. And we sent DHS, and I was there one time having conversations like, would you like to take these services and this? And they straight up denied, no, I'm not going to a shelter. It's more dangerous there than it is right here. So that needs to be something that we need to look into too. If we're going to be opening shelters, we need to make sure that they are properly monitored, clean, because how many times have we heard that shelters are filled with bed bugs and just unsanitary conditions, and that they're safe, that the families in there feel safe. So tackling all those different areas of homelessness is certainly something that we can work on as the borough president, advocating to City Hall, to Albany, and even to Washington, D.C. to make sure that we are getting funding at every level to support the need that is here in New York City.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Our next question coming from Danielle. Unmute yourself.
Yes, I just realized that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Danielle Gabor. I am a member of DC 37, Local 107. I currently work for the Union for Reform Judaism, and I am a New Jersey resident. My question is on education tonight. I know that, what are your top priorities for improving and supporting public education in this time of the pandemic? Think students, teachers, parents, technology, and now a hybrid system of attendance, but also there's everyone with special needs, children of immigrants, dual language, linguistic challenges, all of the above.
Yeah, we need a lot of work needs to be done in our education system. And that is one of my top 3 issues running for borough president: education, our small business regrowth and development, and environmental justice and job growth in the small business. But for our education system, yes, we need to do so much. We've been fighting for funding for years in the state. I'm pushing now in supportive of the Invest New York to build $50 billion to help us get out of the deficit that we're in, but then continue extra services that we've been asking for before we got into this COVID hole. But our schools need support. They need to be upgraded. How many schools still don't have air conditioning? You know, I've spoken and worked and fought for with Local 372 to fight for better conditions for cafeteria workers. You know, it's not just teachers and students, but also other workers in the building. I introduced a bill to make sure the air quality in our schools is something that we're monitoring and making sure is clean, because we know that COVIDs can be in the air too. For technology, I mentioned that we need to expand Wi-Fi. You know, we heard the argument this summer how some shelters didn't have free Wi-Fi in there. I don't know why this day and age, that's still something that hasn't been done. But yeah, any public space, government funding facility should have free Wi-Fi. It's still been a struggle to get tablets to students. And I believe that even after COVID, that's going to be part of their education. No more textbooks, it's going to be on a tablet. So we need to make sure that our schools are able to get tablets and computers and whatever technology to our students in their hand or in the classroom. For teachers, I have friends that are public school teachers here in the Bronx, and it's been a struggle dealing with remote learning and in-person learning. And I've advocated to see how classrooms can be split up, because I had parents telling me that with the remote learning, some classrooms have 70 students for one teacher. And I think that's just a burden that's almost impossible to handle. How do you grade and monitor 70 students in one Zoom? Like right here, we're switching through pages when there's more than 20 people. So it's a lot on the teachers. I believe teacher salaries should be raised. It's really a shame that still they're paying out of pocket for so many supplies and items and barely able to pay their own bills. What was the other thing? Schools. You mentioned something else. No. Well, one thing I believe in too with education is different opportunities. And now I'm talking about our high school students. I really believe in the need for experience and that real hands-on experience at a younger age. I was fortunate to have have an internship in high school in Manhattan at an advertising company. And that was a wake-up call, like, oh my God, this is what the real world is kind of like. So taking me on to college, I had that memory always. And I feel like it helped me, you know, want to study, want to work harder, want to prepare myself for when I do have to get that job. When I was a staffer in the assembly, I worked with the Bronx High School of Visual Arts to help connect students for internships to small businesses in the area, understanding that they had the design and graphic skills that could help a business get digital and be online and advertise themselves better, you know, have a more appealing sign. And I know the Borough President's Office can be that connection for high school students to small businesses. I plan to work with the Bronx Chamber of Commerce and BOEDC to have that opportunity available, and in return give some credits, and if it's possible, pay them, because experience is great, but it doesn't pay the bills, and sometimes students have to help pay the bills in the household, which is why I was supportive too of YSEP and not cutting that program, especially in the summer of COVID when, you know, people were still struggling with work, and this was an opportunity for students to help the household, as sometimes they are relied upon to do when being in that program. But also recognizing that we need different options, not so much in science and technology, or science and math and all that, but incorporating apprenticeships into our high schools, letting students know that there is still another way to be successful. I fought with the Bronx High School Design and Construction and protested with them when they were at risk of getting their plumbing program cut. Plumbing, like I said, my uncle was a carpenter, that helps you get the skills early, start a career early, and eventually maybe even start your own business and help other people have jobs and start their own business. That's still a very viable pathway to the middle class, to a happy, healthy life. And it should be promoted more. I feel like it kind of did lose its steam a couple, years to now. And actually, no, and. That's
okay.
It.
Thank you very much. We'll now take a question from Zelma. Zelma, if you can introduce yourself and give your question.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zelma Brown, and I live in Harlem. I went to Bronx Community College, and I'm a Yankee fan. Hopefully the Yankees gonna get back the World Series next year.
Someday.
They will. They will. Yeah, they coming back. And Congressman Fernandez, you had this answered the question I was going to ask you in reference to jobs and careers for your constituents in the Bronx.
Well, I could elaborate a little more.
And you answered careers, opportunity, and outreach, workforce, information, connection with different organizations so they can better support the community and get jobs available. I know it's the virus, coronavirus is holding up a lot of people and people are out of work and it's a struggle. But when you get a chance, what opportunities or plan do you have to get the people back to work or these children off the street so they can have a better life in the future?
Good question. With our children, getting them off the street, we got to give them something to do. And
yes.
The job does that. And I believe a start to connecting them to jobs is having local community centers. I really believe we need more. I know my area, I'm advocating for it. I've been all over the Bronx, Prospect Avenue. I've attended an unfortunate shooting response rally where everyone in that neighborhood was like, people need something to do. We don't have a community center here. I plan to make sure that any development that does come, that needs to be a part of it. You need to have a community center. You need to have something for the community to be a part of. And in the process of building this development, I want to work with my unions and bring it to the table. So not only do we have immediate jobs for this project, but have an apprenticeship program within that project. So once they get trained and start working there, they have the ability to go to another job because that one's going to end soon. I have a plan to start a small business task force because we know a lot of businesses have closed. A lot of businesses may not be able to open. Some businesses, unfortunately, still are damaged, like on Burnside Avenue and Fordham with the unfortunate riots that happened.
Yes.
The Borough President's Office has capital funding. So I plan to utilize that and create grants for these small businesses so they can reopen and fix the door and open it. But this task force, I want to work with our small businesses, our immigrant business owners that might have language disparities, that might not have the manpower because a lot of the times it's just the one business owner is the one employee that needs help doing the paperwork. We need to work towards funding our community banks and making sure that they're able to give grants quicker to our small business owners. And I plan to do this literally door to door. I mean, working with the bids, we have some bids here in the Bronx. Certain neighborhoods don't have bids, but with help in organizing, they can have a merchant association where they then have a better line of communication to small business services, to the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, to the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation to get the direct aid that they need and in the languages that they need. Because again, we are a very diverse borough, a beautifully diverse borough, and we need to accommodate to those needs. But then as we continue to grow and develop, the Bronx is the final frontier, as many would say, and I'm not saying that, we invite everybody in to do everything, but for those that show interest, for those that want to be a part of the Bronx's growth and evolution, the people of the Bronx have to be involved. So when we look at land use and the ULURP process, I plan to use my time wisely in that process and make sure that we have strong communication, direct communication and outreach and approval by the community board and by the local community associations so they feel a part of this project. Because I don't want to hear anymore that the Bronx is being, bought out basically. But I touched on community boards as well. And that is another big role of the Borough President's Office. The community board, the Borough President has two roles, community boards and land use. That's one of our main powers, aside from influence and getting everything else. But in the community boards, I've noticed that some of them are inactive, some are more active than none. We have 50 positions on the community board that can be filled, and some of them don't have the positions filled. I want to utilize the Borough President's staff and powers in office and ability to outreach to your community through mailers. Honestly, I haven't seen a mailer about community boards from the Borough President's Office, but informing of what your position, what your presence on your community board can actually do. and what you can do for your community. I want the community boards to really reflect the communities that they represent. I want to have diverse members on the board, members from union, members from the health care field, members from schools, members that are small business owners, because these are all bits of knowledge and experience that we need to have when we make these collective decisions about what is best in improving a certain project or addressing a certain need.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Liz, do we have a question from the chat?
We do. Shall I read it? Are you
Yes,
ready?
please.
Okay. The chat is, if selected as the Bronx Borough President, how would you target or promote information to be spread to make the Black and Brown communities feel more comfortable with being vaccinated for COVID?
Well, that is something I try to do now, and it's difficult because, again, things are on Zoom, events are on Zoom, and not everybody is following, certain pages or even have the equipment, the technology to be a part of it. So utilizing the powers that is, mailers. We need to get information directly into people's homes. Having collaborative efforts with community associations and volunteers to maybe flyer buildings the old school way. Having programs on TV, having on our local TV, Bronx Net News 12. We need to make sure we're pushing that this education is reaching us in every possible way. And yeah, I think that's all my answers.
Okay. We have a second. Anna, we have a second question just popped up. Should I read it now? Okay.
Yes, please. You can go.
How will you use your platform to promote police and community cultural awareness and respect and understanding in hopes to reduce community fear of police and police fear of the community?
Thank you.
Good question. Well, just coming off the last one, talking about language access, addressing our business owners that speak different languages, we need to make sure that vaccine information is also distributed in various languages. And in knowing the community demographics, making sure that information is available there. But for police and community relations, I think we need to have stronger communication and understanding between our precincts and community. We have precinct community councils. We need to make sure that those precinct councils are promoted so people know that this is your place to speak directly to the officers and to air your grievances. And if maybe that's not the location, then we can have separate town halls by the borough president's office to have these conversations. And eventually, because I believe that, and I say this because I've seen it, experienced it, heard it from some of my constituents who have attended a precinct meeting, and they feel almost afraid or intimidated to speak up about how certain officers treat people in the neighborhood. So I think we can have a separate conversation, town hall, where people can speak their piece and experiences, and then follow that up with officers, commanders, to speak about it directly. There is still a fear. There's still this stigma that all police are bad, which I don't believe, but I think that we need to then hold those that are bad accountable. And I think that's where the distrust is rooted, that we've seen so many times, like the officer that killed George Floyd is not arrested. They're not getting the punishment for committing a crime. And I think the crime is causing death, killing someone. So until we can show that the system is holding the police accountable, then I think that the belief and the relationship can be mended. Because as much as everybody else is held accountable for their wrongdoings, we get fired for this, you did something wrong. We need to end qualified immunity. And I think when we get to that point, the public will feel that they will be heard. They will feel then that there will be justice sought and that there are no special protections. If you do wrong, you gotta be held accountable.
Thank you. Our next question will be coming from Michelle. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes.
Glad to have you. My name is Michelle Keller. And my sister just a few minutes ago made you a congressperson. I want to make you the mayor because you're ready. I'm telling you this right now. Okay? Because I'm listening to some of these mayoral forums. You got it. You'll be a good connect. Let me just say, I'm from District Council 37. I'm probably one of your seniors here. After 42 years of service, I'm now retired. But I'm coming back again because I know what mentoring is about and I know what it is to kind of give back. I'm also a voluntary member organizer in District Council 37. I am a former Bronxite. I used to be where Anna is now on Soundview, and I also lived in the Parkchester houses before I moved to Brooklyn, and now I am in the Hudson Valley area of New York, here in the Peekskill. And I got to tell you, some of the things you're talking about are the same things up here that we need to be doing together. It's neighborhoods. I want to thank you for giving your all to us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Here is my question. It's kind of two-parted, but we'll see how you answer it to see if I have to go to the second part. In the Bronx, home of Lehman College, Ray, that's where I went to my undergrad, Bronx community and Hostos. CUNY is a crucial educational resource. In fact, CUNY is the jewel of our community experience. The Bronx percentage of residents 25 years or older who have attained college degrees stand at about 19%. The overall average of the rest of the city is about 37%. How would you use the office of the borough president to invest in these schools so that they can expand their services and meet the educational needs of your Bronx constituents?
Well, with the power that I have in my portion of capital funding, and I've had conversations recently with Hostos and Bronx community and Lehman, any way that I can provide an extra service or tool to the school, I will, because our school is the foundation for a future. Our education is foundation for a future. Now in the assembly, and I continue to be an advocate and pledge to push to closing the tap gap so students can have the financial aid and then the support to attend school. Right now, there is the movement of the CUNY New Deal to ultimately help us.
Very good. So you went right into the second question. Excellent. You're on it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
keep going. You're on a roll now. This is good.
Proud supporter of it because CUNY was once
right on.
We need to make sure we get as close as possible to making it free again. And then just a general upgrade. There's CUNY stores. Students have come to me saying, I'm sitting in classroom and the ceiling is falling on my head. So we can't let these buildings crumble. We can't let these institutions crumble. And whether it's through funding in the power that I have now or strong advocacy, again, working with my members in every level of government, I will make sure that this is a conversation that stays present, that stays in the forefront, because education is the foundation for our future. And we need to give that foundation and provide it for our young people and give them that support to make sure that they can carry on with their life as they please.
Excellent. Are you a co-sponsor to that bill?
Yes, I am.
CUNY New Deal?
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
And that big rally on Zoom, it was like 300 students on
Yes. Over 500 some odd people. Right on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay, thank you. Okay, Assemblywoman, I have another question for you. The borough president is the #1 advocate for the constituents of their borough and collaborating with City Hall, Once elected, what would be your first 3 priorities in the 100 days of your term in office?
First 3.
I know there's many, but yeah.
Yeah, there's many. I mean, my platform focuses on getting our jobs back. So implementing that task force is going to be one of the most immediate things I want to work towards, and getting our small businesses doors open again. They provide jobs locally. They provide sustainability for many Bronx residents. I want to utilize my partners in City Council and the Mayor's office to make sure that those services are coming to the Bronx. Too many times the Bronx is last to receive anything and everything. So we cannot let that delay any time. Day one, I'm knocking on that door to make sure that I'm getting help for my small businesses. Bronx is unfortunately unhealthy. We are number 62 out of 62 counties when it comes to overall health. And that's not just physical health, but also the health of our neighborhoods. So I want to continue that conversation and fight for environmental justice and introduce plans to help these areas that have caused bad quality in the air, dirty waters in our waterways, and make sure that we are focusing on that first and having the conversations. Town hall, our air is dirty. What are we going to do about it? What's causing it? I have an idea, and I know a couple of the new council candidates agree with it. So whoever they may be, I look forward to working with them more about capping the Cross Bronx. The Cross Bronx by Robert Moses is one area that has caused Asthma Alley. We have the highest asthma rate in the country, not just the state. So there's technology out there. We did it when the Riverbank State Park was created. Assemblyman Danny Farrell, rest in peace, helped push that. That was a septic, I don't know the word, but it was a septic tank, a septic factory there. And through the technology there and infrastructure, they covered it and put a park now. Now they have a beautiful state park, just like our Roberto Clemente State Park. And I think we can work the same in covering the Cross Bronx, making sure that those emissions aren't coming out into our communities and putting a park on top of that. My, I guess, third thing, education. Kids are learning right now. I want to make sure that every student has the tablet, the resource that they need. I want to make sure our schools, for the acts that they've given, because I know schools, put in their funding requests to help finish an auditorium, to help give security cameras, to help bring smart boards into the classrooms. I want to address those needs first to make sure our schools are equipped with what they need. And for those that haven't put in the request, I will visit. I want to see what you need. And if I can do something for it by utilizing my own powers or partnering with my legislators in the state and the city to fund it, then we will work towards that. But we got to start quick right away. And I want to make sure that we don't miss a beat.
Thank you. Liz, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a three-part question regarding the unions. The first part of my question is, are you pro-organized labor? If so, why? The second part of the question is, what is your belief about contracting out or privatizing city-owned contracts? And the final part is, are you familiar with the AFL-CIO PRO Act, which is the legislation of the people's right to organize that's right now sitting with Congress? It explains how all workers can enjoy the right of union, a living wage, be safe on the job, and look forward to secure retirement. Can you share a few brief thoughts on this progressive legislation? Thank you. That's my question.
I'm very supportive of the right to organize. I stood with Teamsters at Hunts Point in pushing for their right to strike and demanding a fair wage and benefits. I think it's one of the most powerful, but yet simplest statements that there is power in numbers, there's power in people. And when we got the numbers in our people here, we can make a difference, that show of the number of those that believe in something or affected by something is one of the most direct ways of really showing an impact of what the system is not doing. I've been supportive of legislation already to allow the right to strike, to allow the right to organize. As a staffer, I've been supportive of the city council staffers unionizing. I think that's something that every organization has the right to do. What was the other part of your question?
The last part was on the PRO Act, which is the people's right to organize. And the second part before that was belief in contracting out and privatizing city-owned contracts.
For the privatizing city-owned contracts, I, again, want to take the time to really find through comb it, make sure that the workers are being heard and that there's nothing that is taking away from anyone. So while I know that there is going to be opportunity and probably a need to privatize for whatever partners are involved, it has to be very well thought out and planned so no one is left out. And the PRO Act, support it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, do you have a question? Another question?
Yes. So, good evening again. I have one last question for you. It is about COVID. You touched upon it a little bit. So the COVID crisis has laid bare on all of the health inequities in your borough and around the country. How will you encourage your constituents to take advantage, grandbaby, take advantage of the city vaccine program?
Well,
moving forward,
that's okay.
Moving forward, how have you thought about consulting collectively with community, legislative, and health partners to go big on a public prevention initiative, prioritizing good health practices and how to stay fit?
Yes, good question. The vaccine distribution, I've been encouraging to the public to believe in science, believe that this is the solution. Look where we were 100 years ago when the Spanish flu came, and that was a solution, vaccines. So I don't know what other solution there is to stop a pandemic, a disease like this, a virus. And we need to let the people know that this is the solution. Unfortunately, yes, there is some disbelief in medicine and who's administering it of it. So you need to know history to not repeat history. Got to educate on the past so we know that what's happening right now is not happening again. I've held a forum, and it's still on my Facebook page, about the myths and debunking everything regarding the COVID vaccine, from Pfizer to Moderna to the Johnson & Johnson one. I'm working with Bronx House, my local community center, to support the grants that they're going to get, they're applying for, and going to get it, to have forums in various languages. Because here in my area, we have Russian, Albanian, Italian, Spanish, probably 5 more. But, that's important to make sure that we're reaching every community and speaking to them. I've been pressuring the governor's office and the mayor's office, and I was the first one to give a full list as soon as the vaccines were available. I'm like, here's locations. You need space. Yankee Stadium should be one. Our colleges should be others. Our high schools that, up until recently, I think, are not being used. Middle school's open again, not high school. We need to utilize the space in our high schools. Catering halls. I got catering halls up here in the Bronx. That's big space. They got the parking. They got the amenities, the space, the rooms, temperature control, all that. And community centers that fit the size. We need to be really open to the ideas here and work with our community to help have vaccines closer to our neighborhood, right in our backyard. Because at least for me up here in the North Bronx, my constituents are struggling to get down to Yankee Stadium. So that push is really needed. And then what was the second part of your question? About
prioritizing good health practices and how to stay fit.
Yes. Since Stafford, throughout my time in my 10 years being in government, I've worked with Doctors for a Healthier Bronx, which is an organization here in the North Bronx. And they have an annual walkathon with a few schools in my area. And we've pitched the idea and, tried to get it off the ground. And I hope that as borough president, I can get more schools to be a part of this students campaign, making it like a part of the curriculum. You're supposed to, yes, study your homework and then make sure you pass this quiz, but part of your homework is also tracking to make sure you're eating enough vegetables this week, that you're, eating enough fruits, and that you're checking your steps. We were able to get pedometers for students at PS 89 that year. And it was fun. The kids came back every week, like, look, I did 20 steps, or I did 20. That's like right here. Whatever, they had their numbers. So that encouragement at a young age, I think, is absolutely needed. Some schools still don't really have gymnasiums. We need to make sure our school has those gymnasiums. We need to make sure that we're offering athletics in our school systems and that students have that ability, to partake, but also dance. I grew up dancing. I was not an athlete. I didn't play any sports, but I was a ballerina, a tap dancer, all that. So for those programs that exist, BAD and Bombasso Dance Company and City Stage here in the Bronx, I want them to have a chance to share what they do with the community. I don't feel like it because I always look for a dance studio, and sometimes I want to get my tap shoes back on. But these other organizations, companies that provide that physical activity and entertainment, enjoyment, we can collaborate within our schools, within community events, anything that the borough president does, highlight them, invite them, and encourage people to partake. But overall, we need to make sure health is covered with healthy options. It's great that we have a bodega on every corner, but we need to have more healthier options within those bodegas and not allowing that they just be bought with, the salty, high sodium foods in there. But in any public space, in our schools, in our senior centers, anywhere that we're providing meals, they need to be the healthiest options. And I want to make sure that within budgeting and within whatever negotiating and agreements that we have those contracts in with healthy option providers, connecting seniors to healthier options, Meals on Wheels. If we're going to fund them, they got to be funded with healthy foods. And I think that those steps right there can in the hindsight, in the long run, make that difference and, change the mindset of many that you can be smart with your eating. I love the city council has health bucks and provides what is it, those dollars to help go to farmers market. We need to have more of those. We need to have permanent farmers market.
Thank you.
Anna, we're in the home stretch.
Yes. Do we have anything in the chat?
No, except just for everybody to please look at, to connect with the campaign, and also to connect with Organized and Resilient. They just have the links. Mr. Johnson put the links to the campaign, and Ms. Gabor put the link to our Facebook page for our organization.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we go on to Michelle, I just want to ask you, Assemblywoman Fernandez, how can we assist your campaign directly at this time?
So many
How
ways.
can we?
Thank you for asking that. Direct assistance, I think the most valuable things to people is your time and your money. So
Right.
a donation would go a long way. You know, we're in the matching funds program. So anything from $10 to $175 gets matched 8-to-1. So if you're able to share a little something, I humbly ask for that support. I ask that you ask a neighbor to give a little something. It does go a long way, and it helps us reach more voters. And
Yes,
indeed, if you can't afford a donation, your time is just as valuable. We will be having volunteer efforts with phone banking. Petitioning is coming up, so we will need to get some help collecting signatures. All socially safe and everything. I will be providing masks and hand sanitizer and gloves and pens for the signee to hold. And eventually, again, as things get more safe, some door knocking. So if it's not your kind dollars, your time is very, very much asked for and valuable.
Thank you very much. We will now hear, in conclusion, from Michelle, who will speak about the red carpet. Michelle?
Thanks a lot, Anna. And thank you, my sister. Don't be too shy. This is the union you're talking about. We know how it gets done. Don't be too shy with us. This is what it's about.
You gotta see me on the megaphone at a picket line. I get that.
There you go.
Well, that's how you give and give back, right? Because when you get there, and you will, we're going to need you. So we might as well get the job done now, right? That's the merge. We never leave here without asking, just as you do, for something. I mean, we may talk about a lot, but in the end, what is it that we really want to get done? So I want to share this with you. We belong to the Red Carpet for Justice. You'll hear about that. It's a grassroots organization of community and union sisters who have gathered together in the interest of protecting our democracy and global justice. This year, we are collecting signatures on a petition circulating all throughout New York State to present to the New York State Legislature. That would be you. The petition requests support, approval, and the signature of the governor to make March 8th, we're coming on that very quickly now, International Women's Day, a state holiday. And when we're going to put some information in the chat, we're going to make sure you get it. That petition is more than thorough. We're looking for upwards of 3,000 signatures. We started this pre-COVID. We continue to do that. Since we got a U.S. vice president, it should be a no-brainer, but we're out there and we're trying to get this done. We're asking you, would you please help support our initiative and engage your family circle, your friends, your constituents, your staff, and your colleagues. And I heard you talk a little earlier about Sister Reyes, Kalina Reyes, and she's kind of been our connection to this already. And the reason why I thought this, nothing happens for nothing amongst everything else that we're doing. I thought this was the perfect storm, because in saying this to you, and I know you have there's a sister caucus that you have too in Albany. We would like you to share this as far-ranging as you can, because it's coming. It's coming. We had hoped it'd be to the legislators sooner than this, but we're still gathering information. We're sharing information, and we hope that by the time it gets, we understand about politics, but as soon as brother or sister, as we go around, because I tell the brothers, listen, you have a mom, you have a niece, you have a grandmother, you have your wife, you might have 2 girlfriends, but have them all signed, because it's all relevant to what's here in New York State. So it's about recognizing first, and then hopefully maybe one day we'll actually have the date. So that we are sharing with you, and we'll get you all the information so that you can help us get that out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Without a doubt, that, oh my goodness, like, talk about women. How much have we done? How much have we suffered? How much are we still doing now? Half of our essential workers are women right now.
That is correct.
Many women, and I go back to Latina women, have still lost their jobs and have not raised it. Why are women still making less than $1 compared to the men? We are here. We are building our families, raising our families, and no hate on the good fathers, because there's good men out there. But it's about time that, yes, we highlight women and make sure that there's the support that they need is there.
Thank you.
I will share this with the Women of Colors Caucus, with the Women's Caucus in general. I'll communicate with Inez, but I think this is something that will be well received.
Perfect. Just perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. And as we come to a close, Assembly Fernandez, we'd like to hear your final words.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you to everyone here for your time, for your questions, for your concern for the Bronx and who will lead it. And this is such a monumental time, a pivotal time when we look at leadership in the Bronx. We're losing Ruben Diaz. He's been probably the longest running borough president in modern times, longest VP, 12 years. But he brought so much energy, so much evolution to the Bronx. And I believe that momentum needs to continue. Like I said, I'm the candidate that has the experience, the integrity, and the energy to make sure that the people are heard and they are brought to the table with me, and that this borough is growing with your input and no one else's. I believe that we can be the best borough. I believe it right now. But as we grow, we need to be the one that sets the standard. Talking about healthy living, healthy buildings. I don't want to have a building built here that's not looking at solar panels, that's not looking at proper filtration, that's not looking at controlling their gas emissions. We need to be able to be that example. We're the greenest borough. I think we should be the greenest borough. That's why environmental justice is so important to me, because we have preciousness here. We have precious land and beauty. And I want that to be shown. People say the borough president is a cheerleader of the borough. Well,
that's right.
I'm right there. Okay. But I love to talk about this borough. I'm not only doing this because I absolutely give my life to this borough. This is the borough that my family succeeded on. My father was an immigrant from Cuba. He came here when he was a teenager. My mother was an immigrant from Colombia, same thing, teenager. And this borough has allowed them to grow a family, create jobs for their own. My father's his own business owner, and really set a future for all of us. I'm one of 6 kids. So when we talk about being our brother and sister's keeper, I was that. I still am that. I've used and realized my life experience in caring for my siblings, any which one, in whatever reason or issue endeavor that they're in, and utilizing what we know, what we can do to make sure that they're getting to that next step. I do that for my neighbors. I do that for my constituents. And I plan to do that for the rest of the borough of the Bronx. So I ask for your support. I ask for giving more space so we can share this message that we are in a new time. Coming out of COVID, we want to close that negative book. The Bronx has a history of overcoming hardship, of rising out the rubble. And I think this is that next example of it. And we can get there, and we can do it with each other's help, writing these chapters together and making sure that the next chapter is the strongest chapter that the Bronx has ever seen. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to making you proud as your next VP.
Right on.
Thank you.
Right on.
I just wanted to mention, if there are still any questions in the chat or any questions that were left over, we will definitely follow up with Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Yep.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, being part of this forum. Thank you so much. Special thank you to Assemblywoman Fernandez. We wish you the best in your run for office. We're here to support you. And Dan, what can we do? What can we say about Dan? Not enough. Thank you so much for being there for us. What a great team. What a great team. Thank you so much. I wish all well. Just want to say good night. And one last thing, Nathalia Fernandez, what's the best borough?
The Bronx.
Of course, the Boogie Down. There you go.
Be healthy. Be healthy. Be healthy. Be healthy.